And hello from my still cluttered dining room. This is Chris Overstreet, the Redneck Gaijin, and I am dropping frames left and right, and I don't know why, because I've got plenty of bandwidth. Beats hell out of me, guys. Anyhow, let's go ahead and drop on in to Kerbal Space Program, because as it says in tonight's descriptor, I have a contract. I have a contract to build a mining station on the moon. Let me walk you through it. This up top is the ship that collects all the ore we mine and flies it back up off the moon's surface to orbital stations. It has no parachutes, no heat shield. It cannot return to Kerbin. At least not in any condition we'd want it back in. But that's okay, because our contract is to bring the ore back to Kerbin orbit. So long as we dock this thing with the space station in Kerbin orbit, we're golden. This station has not one, but 2 mining drills on it, and a couple of small containment tanks in addition to the big ones that come with the return pod. And in addition to mining, we also have a refinery on here, so not only can we haul back raw ore, we can refuel ships using this rig. All good so far. Got plenty of electric charge with these solar panels, and since the drilling rig and the refinery build up heat, we've got big old radiators to get rid of that. The whole thing is designed to be sent up to Kerbin orbit in 4 pieces: the pod, the central stack, and the 2 lateral stacks that include the drill and the habitat. We're going to have a total of 4 engineers on this thing to help improve the production of the mines. The idea is that we launch all of this to Kerbin orbit, assemble it in Kerbin orbit, and land it on Minmus as a unit. Because, quite frankly, assembling surface bases is a pain in the ass. Trying to figure out how to make docking ports line up absolutely perfectly on all the different modules you're putting in. This docking port here is meant to go on the booster, so that each of these lateral sections can be turned upright. Each of them has their own control probe core, their own antennas, their own electricity and electrical generation. So like I said, we assemble it all in Kerbin orbit, and then we use these 5 Terrier engines, and altogether it's got more than enough thrust to land safely on the moon, and should have enough delta V if we start it in moon orbit. Now, here's the problem. I had to buy a lot of technology to get the build anywhere close to like what I wanted. I had to buy the extra fuel tank here. I had to buy the structural members to build the landing pad. I had to buy various other bits of technology. And so by the time I was done, I was down to 860,000 Kerbucks in the treasury. Itsune says the only thing you assemble on the moon is a crater. True that. There it is, and this is only to low Kerbal orbit. And this by itself cost $100 grand. Then I built the central stack, the thing that would launch the core of the mining plant up to Kerbin orbit, and I had to put extra delta V on that. In order to get the whole thing, including the stuff that would be docked to it, up to the moon. This costs 250,000 Kerbucks. So already we're up over 350,000. But we also need a space station in Kerbin orbit to dock the thing to. That costs 132,000. Yay it. So we are currently up to 550,000 Kerbucks. Then I have to send up at least one resource satellite so I know where to put the stupid mine. What it boils down to is I figured out about the time that I finished with building the central stack that 860,000 Kerbucks was not going to be enough to complete the mission. Project Moon Miner. Here's the procedures. Stage 1 is select landing zones. That means launch resource scanner satellites to both the Moon and Minmus, because we might need some stuff off Minmus as well, and we might as well get the data there. 2, clear the orbits over the Moon, because we have a part retrieval contract that will bring back money, so we're going to take care of that after we send up the resource sats. Then put together the crew. I've already picked who it's going to be. We need 1 pilot and 4 engineers, and in order to maximize experience once we've got everything done, we need to have 2 of the engineers with prior moon landings. The reason for that is we're going to send our pilot and those 4 engineers on a crew training flight, which is going to make a grand tour of both the Moon and Minmus. They're going to start at the Moon and they're going to rescue a guy in Moon orbit. That's more money coming back to us, plus another pilot. Then we dock with the Moon station, and we use the lander there to land 2 of the engineers and get them moon landing experience. Then we retrieve them, get back in the Grand Tour ship, go to the Minmus space station and dock there, and then we make 2 Minmus landings so that all the engineers get a turn on Minmus' surface. Once we've got that, we pack them all back up in the ship and return to Kerbin. And that is going to be pretty much tonight's work. After that, we take other contracts to get additional funding as necessary until we've got enough money to launch the Moon Miner. Then, as I said before, we launch the 4 components of the Moon base, assemble them in Kerbin orbit, fly the whole assembled caboodle to the Moon, land at the pre-designated site that our resource surveys pick out. Then we launch the Kerbin high orbit station. Once we've got the high orbit station in place and the moon mining station producing, we fill the retrieval pod, launch it with a full load of materials and a full load of fuel, dock with the moon station, use the excess fuel out of the pod to refuel the station as much as possible, then rendezvous with the Kerbin orbiting station, and once we've done that, the contract is complete and we fulfilled the mission requirements. There we go. These are comparatively cheap, that is compared to the moon station itself and the lift it requires. But even so, this is a 30,000 Kerbuck stack. Got the resource scanner, got the top line remote guidance unit, complete with KerbNet, which the combination of these 2 will give us biome, terrain, and resource scanning to pick out the best sites. Heavy-duty antennas, heavy-duty power. Doopy-doopy-doo-doo-doo. All right. Three, 2, 1, fire. I said fire. Thank you. Well, that is a lot of acceleration off the pad. Reaction wheels working wonderfully. Uh-oh. Come on, steady up, damn it. I don't think this is going to the moon. And of course, I was looking the wrong way for the explosion. Sorry about that. Okay, this is... Whoa! It did it again. Apparently this design is a lot more dependent on fins than I had realized. A lot more dependent. And I didn't put any on here. So now I'm just trying to find some way of getting it to a polar orbit so that we can scan KERBIN for resources or whatever. And one of the things about hard mode is there is no revert to pad, there is no revert to VAB. Once you've launched, you're committed. Yeah, and this thing is just all over the freaking place. Atmosphere, crap. It's no good. Without fins, I can't control it. And, okay, I know for a fact I do not have enough fuel to finish this orbit. So for all my efforts, this appears to be a completely wasted trip. Here's our trajectory, and it's really short. We have 925 meters per second of delta V left. Our current orbital velocity is just over 1,000 meters per second and slowing as we approach apoapsis. That's not enough. I'll burn it out and I'll try to the last moment, but this is not going to be sufficient. It's going to crash. So that is 30,000 Kerbucks spent to relearn the lesson, you need fins. Out of fuel, and the periapsis is still 222 kilometers negative. In other words, bam, impacting just short of the northern ice sheet. All right, back to Space Center. Okay, hopefully that's enough to keep it stable. Here we go. Launching in 3, 2, 1, fire. Balance out. Getting ready to dump the SRBs. There they go. Full throttle on the rockets. This time we're steady as a rock. Also a good thing, we're no longer dropping frames right and left. Getting some plasma heating as we get into the upper atmosphere at speed. Alright, we have an apoapsis of just under 90 kilometers. Alright, about to hit space. Dump the fairing. Alright, time to throttle back up. Dump the external boosters. And we are on our way to orbit. You have to cheer it a certain amount of bits before you get the special emoji. Okay, we're not quite up to the apoapsis. We're shooting for a circular orbit of about 100 kilometers at the moment. And you're going to find it real hard to see because it's night. We're on the dark side of Kerbin still. But yeah, we got solar panels and everything extended. This one is going to do its job, unlike the previous one. Okay, we have a periapsis. We have a periapsis. We have a fairly lopsided orbit. Okay. It might not be you, random fast reader. It's some kind of peculiar thing that I saw the first few times I was streaming on the laptop, where the OBS tries to use more bandwidth than I have, and it results in dropping frames. I know I fixed the problem on the laptop, but I don't remember how. And I went through all the settings on the laptop, and all the ones that applied, I put them on the on this machine. And it's still doing it. Anyway, this thing is in a good enough orbit for now. There we go. Every time I try to choose between normal and anti-normal, I always pick the wrong one first, without fail. It's like an old joke I used to make about people who joined the Genius Club, Mensa. Mensa ought to have as a test a door that is marked pull, but that you have to push to open. Anyone who gets inside the building on the first try is banned. Just something about intelligent people that we always do the wrong thing first for some reason when it comes to really simple shit. If I pull this off properly, that will get me a polar intercept like this. Just barely. That's tight. It's tight but safe, and I can adjust it when I get there, because this time I've got more than enough delta V. There we go. Resource scanning satellite. Ready to roll. All right, a little bit more warp. 2, 1, fire. Yeah, I know it's dropping frames every once in a while. There's nothing I know how to do about it, at least not yet. I keep thinking I've fixed these things and it keeps not working. Throttle down. Throttle back up now that I can watch what for here. There's our trajectory over here. Darmo, welcome to the show. Okay. Almost. All right, we have a safe periapsis of 11 kilometers. An almost perfect polar trajectory. Okay. That maneuver node is set. But before this one hits home, we need to go back to the Space Center and launch this one's brother, the one that's going to Minmus. Cereal, actually. I'm weird. I eat dry cereal. I don't like milk. We have an apoapsis of 100 kilometers. So we're just going to ride the rest of the way out of atmosphere and then dump the fairing. Okay, we're in space. Fairing is gone. And everything deployable is deployed. So good. All right, here we go. Fire. I am dropping frames every once in a while, and I am sorry about that. I don't know why it's doing it. There's no good reason for it to be doing it. I'm going to have to get in touch with some OBS people after tonight's stream and woodshed this, try to figure out what's going on. Let me go ahead and just pop up my schedule here. I'm going to be streaming every Monday and every Wednesday, except under truly unusual circumstances, beginning at 7 p.m. Any weekend when I don't have a convention, which right now with the quarantine is all of them, I'll be streaming Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central, and occasionally I'll do special streams for the Patreon supporters, and those will be announced on Patreon. All right, that's got the burn. And that's not really it, is it? Let's finish that off. Woof. You really are not wanting to cooperate, are you? There we go. Right. Okay, and that will take care of the insertion. Excellent. So I've got one satellite on its way to the moon, the other on its way to Minimus. So let's go into the tracking station and start cleaning things up. Skip all the way to the bottom. Edpon's debris. Recover that. Apparently we got the contract already, but whatever. Retrieval check shippy debris. That's junk. Get rid of it. Golden retriever debris. There we go. Terminate that. And mystery module S63N. Which is in a nice, tight orbit around the moon. Okay, Eve Probe 1 has its maneuver in 209 days. Golden Retriever on escape trajectory out of the sun. Let's have a quick fly of that. See what we're doing with it. The problem I had is that this does not have enough delta V to get down to where its target is. And its target is in very low solar orbit. So I'm going to go ahead and take a moment to jigger with maneuver nodes here. And we're going to see what, if anything, we can generate. So there's nothing to be done with this anytime soon. Back to the Space Center. Okay, part one of our plan to get mining from the moon is in action. So the next step is to get that piece of space junk out of moon orbit. Fortunately, we have a ship pretty much ready to go for moon junk retrieval. And we know this one works because we used it last week. Anyway, let's send this thing up to the moon. Then we got a Terrier up there, which is another 1,200. This has 5,000 meters per second of delta V, which I think is just barely enough to get to moon orbit and back. I don't like that qualifier just barely. I do not. So let's make this a little taller. And give it a more efficient stage here. Okay, doing the math in my head. Tumpy 2. 750 and another 900. Add 1650. That's less. That's a lot less. Okay, so how about we don't do that then? I think we're going for this anyway. Random fast reader, I am not dropping frames at the moment. Encoding overloaded, so it's not liking me recording at the moment, so that might be part of the problem. And now I'm dropping frames. Right, let's take this thing up. And we're launching in 3, 2, 1, fire. And we're flying. Okay. Clean jettison of the SRBs. And one more time, yesterday I did, like I said, go through all the settings I could find, comparing the laptop OBS installation to this one, and I didn't find what was wrong with it, obviously. And the only way I have of getting uh-oh. I did not mean to dump the fairing that quickly. That could be a problem. Okay, that's probably good enough to get us into space for the orbital insertion. Yeah, my Delta V budget is damn tight to make this work on this vehicle. That's odd because I'm showing dropping frames right and left at the moment. Again, part of the problem is that I'm recording at a much higher fidelity than I can cast at because of my limited outbound bandwidth. And the biggest reason I'm having the buffering issues on my machine is because of the machine having to adapt down to the broadcast while recording at a very high level. I tried turning down the recording to a lower fidelity, and it didn't help. Come on, get me in orbit, please. I am watching my Delta V drain away, and I'm really wondering if I even have enough to make this work. All right, circularizing. 81 by 76, good enough. And I will have to tap into the last stage to get to moon space. It's going to be tight, 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 tight. And I'll have practically no fuel available to slow down coming in. This better not be a big hunk of junk that I'm grabbing, otherwise we are going to have a big fail. Idiot. Open the antennas. Where's the antennas? The hell are the antennas? Okay, I've only got regular antennas on this thing, that's right. I forgot about that little detail. All right. Get me around to where I'm picking up a ground station. Okay, doing this mission on the cheap is gonna make things a bit more difficult, as you'd expect. That doesn't work either because my monitor is my entire desktop. That is everything. What you're seeing right now is only one or two windows that OBS is popping up. That's much more efficient. Okay, and that's annoying. That's what that is. Just go to the moon, and when I get close, I can make the adjustment on the edge of the moon's sphere of influence, which, because Kerbal Space Program does not do three-body problems, doing that means it'll be a lot cheaper delta V than trying to do it here in low Kerbin orbit. So all I have to do is get reasonably close. And that will about do it. All right. The only problem is, does this maneuver node have a line of sight to a ground station? Okay, this is going to run through what's left in the first stage. Okay. RCS on. A little too late. We got in the main part of the burn, but we did not get it quite finished because we lost the ground station. There we go. And, oops, that's... There we go, that's better. And add maneuver. Okay, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Set as target. Okay, that's overshot. Okay, 5.7 ascending node is about as good as we're going to get on this trajectory. I'll have to make another marginal burn to fix that when we do our orbital insertion. All right. That's, like I said, it will be tight on budget, and I have no earthly idea how big the object is we're going to get. Anyway, let's go into tracking station. The next thing to happen is to put the first resource scanner into moon orbit. Incidentally, for anybody wondering why it is that I even took on a moon mining base, I think I've only done a moon mining contract once before in all the time I've played Kerbal Space Program. And it looked like a fun thing to do while we're killing time waiting for 200 game days to pass before our Eve probe makes a pass of Eve, or Duna comes around so we can start making launches to Duna. We have a couple of Duna contracts lined up as well. Random fast reader. The nearest fiber optic line is 30 miles away. The only options that I have for internet out here top out at 1 gigabit outbound. At 1 megabit outbound, I mean. It's DSL. That's DSL and satellite internet. Those are my only options. We've got multiple satellites in orbit around the moon that should be able to relay back to Kerbin if and when we lose line of sight. Knock wood. And for that matter, this one will be joining them because we have nice big relay-capable dishes. As a matter of fact, we're now relayed through one of the satellite relays now. We just lost line of sight of Kerbin. All right. Almost ready for the insertion burn. And here we go. Uh-oh. And just like that, we lost our link up. That's going to be really damn annoying. But we did get an orbit at least. Stable polar orbit between 25 kilometers and 1,000 kilometers. Yep. That's what I thought. So add maneuver up here to raise our periapsis. Make this a circular polar orbit. There we go. Warp to that maneuver node. And for this one, we have direct line of sight to Kerbin, so no problem. Matter of fact, there's Kerbin right there. All right. Received orbital survey data from the moon, 20 science added. Next thing to do is, here's the retrieval tech. Switch to that. That looks funky as... I forgot to turn the overlay off. Well, anyway. That is really funky with the overlay on. I had an uncle who had a 1970s aura lamp that kind of looked like that. He had it right next to one of those sparker lamps that you could, if you put your hand on it, the sparks would leap up to your fingertips. Oh. And we've blown past. Whoop. Easy does it. There we go. Well, go. Using the RCS to make this burn, saving my liquid fuel for the trip home as much as possible. And it looks like our periapsis burn will be on the Kerbin side of the moon, so whatever else happens, we will at least get an orbit. Plasma globe, that's right. That's what the other thing was called. I don't know what the one that had the rings and stuff like this was called, though. There's that for this burn. I am very unsure about my abilities to burn on the back side of Kerbin. So it's going to be really interesting trying to get this thing down to an orbit that'll intercept the target piece of equipment with the antennas we've got. But anyway, here we go. Warping this thing down. And there's Kerbin. RCS on. And this is going to be pretty noisy for a moment. Random Fast Reader, thanks for your support. Thanks for coming out. Hopefully I'll fix what keeps going wrong with the desktop streaming machine. I want to save a little bit of monoprop for intercept with the target. All right. Okay, RCS. Turn to position, finish the burn. And done. And oops, I forgot entirely about getting coplanar with the target, and we are way off. So, over here on the back side of the planet, we're going to try to drop the periapsis, get into position to light them up. There we are. And warp around to it and hope that if this thing doesn't pick up relay satellites, we're kind of hosed. And it doesn't. Lovely. Because there's Satellite Brown right there. Switch to. Satellite Brown should have relay capacity. Yep, those dishes are relay compatible. And it's not working. So, gonna have to do the best I can with what I've got. The only thing that's gonna work, I think, is direct line of sight on Kerbin. Bingo. Okay. That means I'm gonna have to get fancy. Okay. Not saying very much at the moment because I am focusing on trying new and different things. Okay. That might work. I haven't given up on this retrieval mission yet. Okay, I'm burning down to 20 units of monoprop, which is what I think is my necessary reserve to get as close to a center grab on the target object as possible. Okay, that's it for using monoprop for Delta V. I can't do it anymore. Yeah, ratcheting down my altitude on each orbit as much as possible. Fax Paladin, hey, Joe, good to see you. All right. So far, so good. And trickle of burn, because this is a very small maneuver, this one. Done. All right. I can get in one more maneuver on this side. Gonna boost slightly up here. What I'm doing right now is flipping my periapsis and apoapsis around so that my periapsis, which is my chosen point to get as close to the target as possible, is in sight of KERBIN, so I can do all my burning there. And that looks to be about as good as I'm going to get. All right, and another 56.4 meters per second of Delta V. A mostly radial outburn. Warping up to the node. This is not the easiest thing to do when, as I've mentioned many times already, you can only operate the probe in half its orbit. All right. How's by that? Periapsis altitude is okay. All right. Extending it up really high, but that way we get an intercept of 1 kilometer at a high relative speed. This is costing us Delta V that, strictly speaking, we don't have. But it makes it happen in a reasonable time frame. All right, that's going to be the plan. Huh. Okay, for a bit there it looked like it was linking up with the communication satellites. Anyway. The infamous solar-powered flashlight, yeah. Yes, there was a post on Facebook a couple of days ago that said something along the lines of, X character would be a great superhero if they weren't so greedy. Yeah, and I said... And a screen door would work fine on a submarine if it wasn't for all the little holes. All right. There's that. And warp around the moon one more time. Alrighty. Alright, we are approaching target at 101.2 meters per second. Which means getting on my periapsis would be a very good idea. Whoops. Okay. And there's the target, whatever it is. RCS on. And I can't quite make out what it is yet, but we're 40 meters away from it. So hopefully it's not very big. Looks like a bog standard piece of space junk. And we've got it. It's a swivel engine, looks like. No, it's a Reliant. Who the hell sends up a piece of junk like a Reliant? Oh well, it doesn't matter. We've got it now, we're going to hold on to it, and we're going to take it back to KERBIN. Alright. After this burn, we will have a little less than 400 meters per second of delta V for our final deceleration into KERBIN atmosphere. So it looks like we're going to be in good shape. I think we're going to be in good shape as far as alignment's concerned, or at least good enough. Alright, and burning in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire. Okay, almost finished with the burn. Switching over to RCS for the final little puff. Come on. All right. You don't want to play, that's fine. Periapsis is a little bit high as it stands, but the braking fire that we engage in when we get down there will more than take care of that. So we time warp forward. And this is us getting closer to getting back home again. Now, last week we were bringing home a 3-man capsule with his exact same rig, and things got a little bit tense. This time, I don't think it's going to be nearly as much of a problem. The Reliant engine masses a lot less, and it doesn't extend out past the heat shield, so we should be in good shape. Getting down closer to Kerbin. There we go. Get on our retrograde. Then on to stability. RCS. Burn out the RCS first. RCS is gone. Now we burn on liquid fuel. And the reason we're using up all our fuel is to slow down our descent into atmosphere and make this landing more survivable. Aiming for a periapsis of about 35 kilometers. And we got 35.7. That's good. Retract the solar panels. That's potentially money back in our pockets. And decouple. I said decouple. There we go. Hold on retrograde, 'cause we going down. Well, whatever else happens, I don't mind losing the rest of the ship so long as the piece that we were being paid to retrieve survives the landing intact. Well, I really am just slideshowing it, aren't I? That's unfortunate, but with my tiny little bit of bandwidth and me still trying to figure out what's going wrong with OBS, that's pretty much all I can do. Holding well on on retrograde, I mean. No heat warnings. Periapsis is starting to drop. Apoapsis, yeah. We're definitely coming down in one pass. No question. Switch over to surface mode. Make sure we stay behind the heat shield all the way down. Itsune, the idea of a space elevator is really clever, but the sheer tidal forces involved in having an object extending from the surface all the way up to a what you call geostationary orbit, they surpass anything that we currently have, and they really stress anything we can imagine. And that's on Earth. The problem is you absolutely cannot put a space elevator around the moon because geostationary orbit around the moon is outside the moon's sphere of influence. It would actually require stronger materials to make that work. So I don't blame Kerbal Space Program for not giving you the option. Not when we still haven't figured out how to make it an option in real life, even with theoretical materials. It's just barely imaginable if we can ever produce braided bucky material into a cable. It's just barely imaginable that that would work. For Earth. For the Moon, nothing. All right, 1,600 meters per second surface velocity. Still no heat warnings. We're coming down nicely in it. I can't tell in this window because I haven't turned up the brightness on this installation of Kerbal Space Program to see the dark side of a planet. I'll need to fix that before next time. But yeah, we may be coming down in water, which suits me just fine. We are coming down on the opposite side of the planet from Kerbal Space Center, so we're going to get practically no money back from the ship. Okay, we're down below hypersonic speeds now, and about to drop below supersonic. Coming up on 800 meters per second mark. Still 22 kilometers up, but slowing very quickly. And our trajectory is beginning to go vertical. We've got green light on parachutes whenever. Okay. We are descending in our own sweet time, aren't we? Well, deceleration is almost stopped. I'll hit the silk when it starts accelerating again, or when we hit 5 kilometers altitude, whichever comes first. Although, if anything, our deceleration is getting more rapid. All right. Very expensive yeeting. Well, I'll bring that up again in just a moment. Surface velocity 170 and still dropping, but we're coming up on 5 kilometers, which means it is time for parachutes. There we go. And that is going to drift its own way down to the surface. 84 meters per second before the parachutes even open fully. And there they go. Now, just in case, I'm going to get ready to jettison the heat shield, because I'm not at all certain that this thing is going to float if I keep it. Even with the fuel and monoprop tanks absolutely empty, the heat shield, the reaction wheels, and the piece we're returning are dead weight. Uh-oh. And we have, now that we're down here, we've got no probe control. Looks like I hit the silk just in time. Right, so the question is, will it sink or swim? It's almost flying because it's descending at only 3 meters per second. If KSP simulated weather, this thing would be a kite. If it floats with the heat shield, I'm going to keep it because, obviously, reduce, reuse, recycle. But I'm not going to give up the contract for a heat shield. We're in the water. And we are just barely floating. Recover vessel. All right, so stages 1 and 2 of our plan are pretty much complete, or will be once we finish the orbital insertion of the satellite around Minmus. We got the contract, and we got 140,000 Kerbucks back. So we have slightly more than paid for all of the resource satellites and this mission. Anyway, let's get my ugly face off the screen, shall we? There. Sandwich is on hand, if not in hand at the moment. So, let's go to the tracking station. I need to pick out landing zones. Not just for the mining station, but also landing zones for the Moon and Minmus training landings. And since we're making landings, I need those to, I need those to be places we haven't landed before so I can do some science mining while I'm here. So, ore scanner, going into that. I've made a list of the various biomes on the Moon and Minmus that we haven't visited yet. And so I'm going to be looking, using the satellite here. Okay. Here we go. KerbNet access, here we are. Cycle display mode. KerbNet will automatically refresh every 7 seconds. I want the moon landing to be a dressed rehearsal for landing the mining station. So wherever we land to train our crew is where they're going to land the mines. Yeah. Again, the goal is to find ore in a biome we haven't visited that is accessible from the equator. And we visited both the lowlands and the midlands. Oh, we got highlands here. That's a winner. That's where we're going to send the landing from the moon station. All right. I think the same Grand Tour vehicle we used much earlier in this series will be useful for this. But first I need to find it. This mission needs 7 seats. 2 Moon Special, here we go. This is costing 68.6 thousand Kerbucks. Alright, and this is not it. Well, it will be it, but... So, it's time to crew this thing. Jebediah is flying them because I want to give them the maximum opportunity to get home alive. The pilot for the actual moon station landing is going to be Arifin Kerman. Where's Arifin? Well, Arifin, here we go. Arifin Kerman. We need an empty seat for the guy we're going to pick up in moon orbit. Okay, then the 4 engineers are Hudka Kerman, Ilbri. There she is. Sonrik. And Yolger. I picked these out because they're mostly low level, but this training mission will bring them up to the maximum level that we've got. Ilbri, however, is going to replace the engineer that's currently on station orbiting the moon, and that guy is going to go to Minimus, get trained, and eventually end up in the moon mining station. Reason being, I want the 4 engineers in the moon mining station to be the maximum level I can arrange for at this point, so that they'll produce maximum efficiency available out of the mining equipment. So far as I can tell, it's pretty much the only thing engineers are good for in Kerbal Space Program. That and fixing slightly malfunctioning rover wheels. Ah, and here it is. SAS on. And we're launching. We are launching in 3, 2, 1, fire. And oops, I forgot to strut those outside. I had those strutted, but they came unstrutted when I duplicated them. It's going to be a really entertaining flight. And expensive. Oh boy. All right. We're saving the Kerbals, but that's a lot of wasted money right there, because I assumed the struts were there when they weren't. Son of a bitch. Well, that flight didn't get very far at all, did it? Anyway, recover vessel. At least everybody lived. That 20-meter flight lost us about 120,000 Kerbucks. Because this whole stack is 163,000. This is a really expensive training flight. And we're going to have to do it again once I get the struts properly emplaced. Same crew on board. And considering how much trouble I'm having with drop frames, I'm thinking I'm going to get these guys to orbit around Kerbin, and then I'm going to call it a night. And then tomorrow I'm going to start asking around other OBS people to try and figure out what I'm doing wrong with my settings. So that Saturday, once I have the poll results in, I can figure out what to do to continue. Mostly what we've done tonight is kind of the boring stuff, but this grand tour followed by landing the moon miner, that's going to be the stuff you do not want to miss to drop frames and stills and crap. But anyway, save that. Let's try this again. There we go. Accept and return to flight. The frame rate, I set the frame rate. It's currently set at 30 frames per second. But at the very bottom of the screen, bottom right-hand corner, it'll show you kilobytes per second. And it'll have a green square if you're doing it right, yellow, orange, or red if things are going wrong. And there's other status underneath that shows how long you've been live, how long you're recording, your CPU usage at the moment, drop frames appears in the middle. And encoding overloaded, consider turning down video settings or using a faster encoder is, in my case, on the left of the main screen at the bottom. A little bit of shimmy in the vehicle, but not too bad. Yeah, encoding overloaded has been stuck on for quite some time. It hasn't blipped out once. So I dread to think about how much frames I'm dropping at the moment. From the looks of things, lots. Whoops. And while I was griping, our apoapsis went to space, and we are on a very vertical trajectory. That's wasted fuel. And I am tilting up the ship to get rid of that nose cone. Okay, there's apoapsis passed. Pulling back a bit to try and make things as circular as possible. All right, 90 by 87. That's good. That's good. And we're pretty close to level. That's going to be fine. There's one more thing we need to do before I end for the night. We're going to leave that training mission in low Kerbin orbit for the time being, but the Minimus ore scanner needs to be put in Minimus orbit. Right, I am now putting the survey satellite in polar orbit, reasonably close to Minimus, but not so close that the scanner can't work. The scanner has to be in between 25 kilometers and 1,000 kilometers above the surface of whatever it's scanning. Alright, still not quite polar. But is it polar enough for the scanner? Orbital survey has to be stable polar orbit, damn it. So I have to commit one more maneuver. That should about do it. Yeah, it's just decided to stick on these things. It's now getting a bit of a symbol there. Good. Let's go ahead and finish this up, and I'm going to quit for the night, and I'm going to ask wiser heads than mine why my OBS is fucking up. Oh my, it's dark. Can just see Kerbin and the tiny little blip, which is Moon from here. And then there's the dark side of Minimus on there. There we go. That should do it. That looks very nearly a perfect polar orbit, which means radial in, orbital survey. I am in a stable polar orbit between 25 kilometers and 300 kilometers. What the hell? No, I'm not. Periapsis. Good God. This game is trying to get me to stick around with the crapping out stream. There. Radial in. And there's the resource scanner. There is Minimus. Give me the orbital survey. Thank you. All right. We're in business as far as Minimus is concerned. And the next time we bring up this save, it will be to finish the training mission, and then we can finally get the mining station onto the moon. But in the meantime, that is going to be it for tonight. Thanks as ever for your support, everyone. I appreciate it very much, especially in these trying times. This has been Chris Overstreet, the Redneck Gaijin. Thank you for watching. Good night.